Hey folks, how you doing? It's Kurt with Mañana no Mas. I promised that I would go live today at 10 o'clock a.m. I did something really interesting though. Today's going to be a talk about tech stuff. It's going to be like, hey, what kind of tech stuff does a digital agency or any business use to try and etch out a little piece of success? And when I set up this live broadcast in advance on StreamYard, I set it up for 10 o'clock p.m. instead of 10 o'clock a.m. So I had to go and restructure things a little bit. So don't worry. If you received a notification that it's going to go out at 10 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to set that up so that the recording goes to that and that people will still be honored in that time. So let's get right to it. So the subject matter today, I made the decision at the beginning of the year that we were going to do kind of a featured talk every Thursday. So every Thursday at 10 o'clock Central, we're going to have a different theme. If you are part of the mañananomas.com family, you'd sign up for the newsletter, and that newsletter will go out on Mondays, and it'll tell you what the subject is going to be on Thursday. So today is our tech talk. We're going to talk about things involving tech today, right? Next week is going to be leadership. So we've already kind of got these main categories blocked out so that people know what they're signing up for when they sign up, right? Because we're asking people to pre-register for the call and come in and all that. Now, here's kind of the deal. If you are in any of these calls, right? So if you're in Facebook, if you're in LinkedIn, if you're in YouTube, if you're in StreamYard itself, just go ahead, pop in, hit the comments, let me know who you are, where you're from. Maybe we can make a connection or have a conversation or something like that. The other thing is, just put a banner down at the bottom. We do have a podcast, Mañana no Mas podcast. So I would encourage you to check that out. Save it, bookmark it, whatever it is that gets you to check in with your podcast. Now it's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's everywhere. So we make it in Spotify, and then Spotify distributes it to all these other channels. And so if you have the opportunity to see that, that would be great. Now, as far as today goes, again, use comments. If you have any comments or questions, just put them in the comments area. I'll see comments come in, and then I can respond in some kind of way. Now, this talk on technology today is not going to be about Lifter LMS or Bricks or any of these tools that I'm using to build websites. Instead, what I wanted to focus on is let's get down to the core of it. Let's get down to here. Let me just do a quick screen share with you real quick. Let me close off the one. Well, no, I can open this one, and then I can go to, we'll go over here and we'll say share this tab instead. And what this is a quick Grok search. Okay. So I went into Grok and I said, how much money does the average WordPress freelancer make? I thought this was interesting because it's not me making it up, right? It's like, okay, well, let's let AI make it up. And so it says determining the average earnings of WordPress freelancers involves considering, several variables such as experience, geographic location, skill. Now, I'm going to tell you, in the WordPress community space, it's commonly thought that the average agency makes somewhere around $42,000, $43,000 a year. Okay. And remember, an agency can be a freelancer representing themselves as an agency. It can be a team of freelancers. It can be an actual agency with cubicles and offices and a real building. And so I thought it would be important, instead of talking about anecdotally, like what do people in the industry say? Well, I don't know who is trying to reach me so much. I don't know. I didn't want to just come at it from an anecdotal thing. I wanted to say, okay, if I went to Grok, if I went to some form of AI, what would AI say? So it talks about hourly rates, right? So it says the median hourly rate for a WordPress developer is around $20 an hour, right? So if you were to extrapolate that, you would say, okay, if it was a full-time job at $20 an hour, that would be $400 a week. That would be 20,000 something dollars a year, right? Because there's 50 working weeks in a year. So we would say, okay, so that is about, right? Did I do that math right? I hate when I do that. I hate when I get lost. It's about $20,000 a year. Okay. So the rates typically range from $15 to $28 per hour. Okay. However, specialized platforms like Codable might see higher rates. Codable is an organization of they have like 700 developers in their family of people. They call it Codable, and they have a bidding process, and they're able to much more readily give people in that infrastructure work. And so people tend to make a little bit more there. And it says they see higher rates from $80 to $120 per hour. And of course, they are, how do I say, paying Codable to be part of that family, right? So in broader freelancing context, it can range from $20 to $150 per hour, right on the money. Like, anecdotally, I can tell you, I see this all the time. I will reach out to a freelancer and say, hey, do you want to be a part of this project that I sold? I need help on executing these tasks. And in a lot of cases, freelancers aren't aware of, like, they're not really aware of business billing techniques, right? So they'll say, oh, well, my rate's $150 an hour. Well, dude, I'm not even charging the client $150 an hour. So how can I pay you $150 an hour? You're not making the sale, you're not doing the invoicing, you're not paying for the payment portal processing. Realistically, you should have an insider rate and a retail rate. You should have a wholesale rate and a retail rate. You should have if you understand what I'm saying, subcontractor rate and contractor rate. So it makes sense, right? You would get more jobs if you had that. And just think, if all you had to do was actually execute the job, but you didn't have to worry about going to the meetings and sending the invoices and following up for payment and all of those things, how much easier would that job be and less stressful would that job be? And so you'll see that, right? It says in broader freelancing context, rates can vary from $20 to $150 an hour. Now, there is a reason why I'm going through this. Okay. I want people to understand. And this isn't just for freelancers in the WordPress space. This applies to almost any service industry that you might be self-employed in. So I'm trying to use this as a benchmark. Okay. Annual income, ZipRecruiter, right? So the ZipRecruiter data says late 2024 that freelance WordPress developers in the US are at about $84,000, translating to about $40 per hour. I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense. $84 seems kind of stiff. I think that ZipRecruiter data and the US average salary for WordPress developers, including freelancers, is reported around 71. That does make sense. Okay. Independent, right? So if I'm thinking of independent freelance WordPress developers, 84,000 seems a little steep. I don't know that they're really making that much. They might be making the $40 per hour, but I don't think they are working full-time weeks. Okay. And it says experience level, and it says, why those with 2 to 5 years of experience could see income of 60 to 80. Senior developers see between 80 and 120. So I wanted to use this as a benchmark of where people are at and what we're actually discussing today. Do you want to be one of these freelancers that's hanging out at the 40 grand mark, or are you really pursuing a 6-figure income? That to me is that now we're going to start talking about some fun stuff. So I see some people coming into the live. If you're coming in and you have comments, questions, I welcome them. I absolutely welcome them. When I run the live office hours with Lifter LMS, or when I'm working with the Membership Machine Show and Jonathan, in the back of my mind all the time, I'm thinking, okay, we're talking to a lot of people that are working for $15, $18, $25 an hour, and it's not full-time, it's contracted, it's freelance. And I want to help them get to that next level. But how do you get to that next level? And I'm involved in the post status Slack group, which is phenomenal, by the way, right? If you're in the WordPress space, you want to be on post status. You want to meet as many people as you can in the space, because it gives you an idea of who's it working for and who isn't it working for, right? You can kind of see, you can attend different meetings and things and Again, I'm going to use that word anecdotally, right? So anecdotally, you can say, okay, that person's got it going on. This person may be having a little bit of a struggle. I'm not saying you say it out loud. I'm saying you make a recognition of it, and it helps you to figure out the next steps in growth. And so this leads me to some very important things. When I am working, let's say a freelancer gets in touch with me and they say, hey, Kurt, I just sold this really big project and I need some help. Would you be interested in working with me on this project? I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of times the answer is don't be no. But here's why. There's a certain structure that I need to see from somebody. And if they don't have a sense of structure, if they don't have processes in place, then chances are I don't trust them to be a good project manager and get us to the finish line and get us paid. Now, most of the time, Mañana No Mas works on a prepayment schedule only. So we are either prepaid for projects or we are prepaid by retainer to continue the next month's work. Okay. So when a freelancer comes up to me and says, oh, hey, I got this really great project, we get 50% up front and the balance on delivery and this, that, and the other thing. If they're handling all of that and I don't have to get involved in meetings and collecting and invoicing and payment gateway fees, if I don't have to be involved in all that, there's a chance I might say yes. There's a chance I might jump on board with that project. But the way to get me to say yes is to show me that you have process. Now, a lot of people out there growing their businesses, they're on a tight budget and they're saying, okay, well, I can use Google Forms for this, or I can use a Jot form for that. And then that can populate something in a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. And I can set up an automation with Google Sheets that will track my income and my expenses and my this and my that. And it sounds like it's a plan. It sounds like it's something that works. But here's what happens. What happens is the user experience, or what your client goes through in trying to work with you, becomes just a disjointed mess. Where do they go to get their invoices? Where do they go to upload a document? Where do they go to upload an image or a video? Where do they go to, where do you go to? Let's say you start working with other people. Where do these other people go that you network with to get the required assets they need to execute the tasks you give them? If it's not consistent, people aren't going to want to work with you. It gives you the impression, it gives the outward impression that you're not prepared for the business that you're trying to do. And so one of the very first things that I did with Mañana No Mas was when we opened up Mañana No Mas, one of the first things I wanted to say was, all right, and maybe, you know what, I need to be a little bit more transparent here. It wasn't an immediate thing. It wasn't like I did this and then I opened my business. It's like I started doing my business and I started doing the freelancer thing like a lot of people do. And I started making those painful commitments to like, yeah, I can make you a 5-page brochure website for $500. You might hear that and go, oh, I wish I could do that, right? No, you don't wish you could do that. That turns into you making $5 an hour by the time you're done working with somebody that doesn't know what they want to do. I have found in time that the smaller the budget, the more disjointed the process can get, right? So being a project manager and doing a needs assessment and making sure that you get all of your assets together before you start building a website is very important. Now, how do you gather that stuff? How do you get that kind of how do you get the assets rounded up from your client? How do you communicate with your client? How do you invoice your client? How do you give your client a proposal and a scope of work? These are very interesting things. A lot of people that get started don't have these processes in place, which is why today for our tech talk, I wanted to give you kind of a quick tour of what we use at Mañana No Mas as kind of that gluing environment. You don't have to use this tool, but you need to have a tool. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick screen share. You're going to see this from my perspective, not from a customer perspective, but you're going to see it from my perspective. Basically, this is our portal right here. So this portal is a subdomain on the mañananomas.com website, and it's called portal.mañananomas.com. Customers would go here and they would sign in just like I'm signing in now. When they sign into this portal, and again, you're going to see it from my perspective. My perspective shows me more than what the client sees. All right, but we get a landing page here that says, hi there, sweet mate. This is for me. This is not what customers see. Customers will see this like start here page. And the start here page is just a quick little blurb that says, welcome to your start page in the Mañana No Mas portal. We track your milestones and your due dates, and we project manage this whole thing for you. All right. There's a full calendar in here. So my calendar's in here. My appointments are in here. If somebody wants to book a time with me for Mañana No Mas, it's going to come through this website. And if you've ever booked with me before, I want to pull this up real quick. Oh, I got a new computer yesterday. I'm very excited about it. But some of my buttons are in different places. Yeah, it says, whoops, that page is gone. Let me see. Here we go. So let's share this page. Okay, so share this tab. So somebody wants to have a 30-minute chat with me. Here's an image of me in AI, right? And it's going to say, click the schedule an appointment. They're going to put in their email, their name, their company name, or they're going to say, I'm not representing a company, right? They're going to give me their phone number, and they're going to put in a note. Typically, most clients will put in a note if you leave them a note space. And then they just go in here and click to schedule an appointment. So it's going to pull up like, hey, what day do you want to schedule a time with me, right? And I can also set that up so that people can't schedule the appointment unless they pay for it. So I have different meeting types. I have discovery meetings that are free, and then I have paid meetings where I consult and train my clients on how to use their products. All right. So let's go back to this. That's how all that is happening. So we got the calendar, we got appointments, all that's there. Now I've got a CRM tool. This CRM tool tracks the companies I'm working with, all the contacts that set appointments with me, right? They become leads within the system. So this becomes like a full CRM. So I have leads and I have clients, and I have circles that are leads and clients. All right. And then I can also do events and deals and things like that. What's important is everybody I'm doing business with is in this platform. All right. Which means that when we go to the office and we take a look at what I can do in the office, I can send them an invoice. I can track expenses for the project I'm working on for them. For instance, let's say I bought some plugins for a web build that's not covered by our normal hosting program. Well, then those extra expenses are going to get allocated to the next invoice, right? So we've got invoicing. We've got a way to write and track our proposals. Our proposals go out and have like expiration dates. And so it'll tell me if a proposal is still active but not closed. If they close it, I can convert it to a project, all those cool things. All right. I can store different documents. And of course, there's payment gateways and settings. Projects. This is where the magic happens. So I have projects, tasks, all tasks, work requests. So if somebody wants to add a work request to a task or to a project, they can. And then timers. I time everything that happens at Mañana No Mas. So if I am setting up a new hosting account, I'm going to say, okay, start the timer, go into our server, establish a new hosting account, assign the URL, put in the whatever the major plugin is. It's probably going to be a WordPress site, and then we'll probably be doing Lifter LMS. And so I put that stuff in. All of that gets tracked. You might say to yourself, well, that sounds like overkill, Kurt. No, it doesn't. Because the next time that I quote a job out to a client, I'm going to be able to go to a project that's similar. And I'm going to say, oh, that project took 43 hours to process, or that project took 247 hours to process. There's different levels of projects. So if I do a needs assessment and I find that that needs assessment aligns with a previous project, I'm able to bid on that project with a fair amount of certainty. I'm able to say, hey, based on our previous work, we know we're going to spend this much time on this. A lot of people in this space don't have that data. They're trying to remember, right? They go, no, I think I can do that in like 10 hours. But they've missed something. And next thing you know, they've got 16 or 18 hours wrapped up in something. And if they build it out or quoted it at the 10, they're either going to take a loss and lower their hourly rate to make it come true, or they're going to have to, tuck their tail between their legs and run back to the client and ask for more money. So that's why it's important to track your time, know what your time is worth, and then execute moving forward, right? So that's what we do. There's a marketing component to this. There's different content. We can make different pages. But here's another piece of magic that the customer gets. We can go to files, and you'll see that our customers are able to load up files directly to this platform like a file sharing program. So I don't have people going out, and I'm going to go back here to the main screen and turn this off for a heartbeat. This is one thing that drives me crazy in working with other freelancers, other agencies. They don't have a set process or a set portal that's theirs, for assets and features. And so, they've got stuff out on Dropbox, they've got stuff on OneDrive, they got stuff on Google Drive. And here's the I don't want to say the embarrassing part. Everyone is in business for something. Everyone is in business for something. But they're trying to do everything free. They're trying to say, well, I've got, 15 gigs that came with my laptop purchase at OneDrive, so I'm going to use that. And then I bought this Android phone, so I've got 10 gigs of space on Google Drive. And so they're trying to work these spaces, with clients, and they're trying to track where stuff is. And when they bring other people into the conversation as the project moves forward, there's the opportunity for other people to join. The customer might bring other stakeholders to the conversation, or the agency might bring other workers in. And then you have to magically be able to be like, well, this one's in Google Drive, and this one is in OneDrive, and this one is in Dropbox. If you have your own file sharing program, you're in, right? Like you've already got it. And here's the deal. I hear a lot from other agencies, other customers will say, hey, my customer wants to use Dropbox, or my customer wants to use, and this is where I kind of draw this line in the sand a little bit. Your customer made a suggestion because you didn't have a plan. It sounds mean, but it's true. Your customer made a suggestion that sounded more like a demand because you didn't say you had the plan. So one of the things that comes up, and I'm going to show you this real quick. Let's go back to, we'll go back here to Office, and we'll go back here to Proposals. And I'm going to open up one of these proposals in here at the risk of sharing too much stuff. Let's just do Soars with Wings. All right. And we'll go into the Mañana process map. You'll notice right in our proposal, I'm telling customers, this is what's going to happen. This is how we get clients. This is how we manage clients. This is how we review our processes with clients. And this is how we launch our clients. They understand what's going on from the get-go. And in these other processes, like each project has its own page where it says, here's the unique things from the discovery meeting for your project, right? Because you want customers to realize, hey, they're special. And so I'm going to say, hey, here are some things that we noticed with your project. And we're going to say, this is the way we're going to execute this. This is going to go here. This is going to go there. This is the timeline. This is how we're going to meet your requirement on the calendar. And this is how we're going to meet your requirement on budget. And then I say, moving forward, right? So this moving forward section, the moving forward section is, this is how this is going to happen. You are going to follow our process, and it's going to cost this much, and it's going to take this much time. And this is how we're going to meet your deadline and your budget. I go through the whole thing. And that means way before I do a proposal, part of the discovery meeting is, what is your budget? What is your timeline? You need to know these things so that you don't waste your time writing a proposal and getting kicked to the curb because it doesn't work. All right. Now, a couple of things that I think are really important about having a portal like this. And again, this is all just part of a tech talk. Okay. So in this tech talk, there's one more feature that I want to show you. I want to go back to my Start Here page before I open up a shared page, because I don't want to share stuff that's inappropriate. But let's go back to the shared screen, and let's go back over here and take a look at what we've got. I've got stuff here for onboarding and support. because I want my clients to feel that they're taken care of. But there's this thing called messaging. Okay. This messaging thing is really cool. If I go into messaging and I go into my inbox, you're going to notice I got a full inbox full of stuff from different clients. And Selena's really active in here right now. So you can see a lot of stuff from her in here. All right. But this goes on for pages and pages and pages. It's searchable. So I can filter things out, and I can say filter who it's from, filter what it was about, right? And filter from different dates. So I can do that. I can also look at the messages that I've sent, or I can create canned responses to people. Now, this is not the only way that we give support to our clients. This is a communication portal, not really a support portal. But here's where I'm driving to with this. Because we have a client portal on the front end of our website, and we have a central location to send our clients for communication, invoicing, proposals, and progress management. Remember I said projects, that whole I didn't want to open up a project and show you all that stuff, but we manage all of the projects and track the time. So when we have a project, we put it into our project management tool inside the portal, and we say, here are all of the steps that we're going to put into this project. And as those different milestones are hit, we have a couple of ways to display that to the client. We have a list of tasks, right, that have due dates and whether they're done or not. We have a dashboard that says, hey, this project is 42% done, right? So we have that, but we also have a Gantt chart where we can say, this is assigned, this is actively being worked, this is in the queue to be reviewed, and this part of the project is finished. And that's all the way there. So if they go to tasks and they see a bunch of stuff says working but not finished, they can go to the Gantt chart and they can say, okay, what stage is it in working, right? Is it just assigned, or is it actively being worked on, or is it in the review process? And that gives the customer a much better feeling about, what's going on there, right? Now, I see a lot of more people are coming in on the numbers here, so I just want to reiterate, if you have any questions or comments about what we're talking about today, I welcome you to put in your comments and your questions right here. Now, as I do these lives scheduled on a weekly basis, I'm going to increase the scope of what we're talking about, or change that scope session by session. So typically once a month, we're going to do a tech talk. Typically once a month, we're going to do something on leadership and communication. And when we talk about tech stuff, it's not that I'm trying to say this is how you have to do it to find success in your niche or in your thing, because it's up to you. Right? And you're running your business is up to you. But what I'm hoping here is, in my day-to-day, in the lives that I do with Lifter LMS, WP Tonic, when I work with Giver Marketing, for example, I'll have meetings with the folks at Giver Marketing. And what I'm seeing is people have the best of intentions of running a business. They say, oh, I'm going to offer these services, or I'm going to this, and that's great. That's awesome. That's wonderful. But they miss the part about tech and processes to get them to the next level. So we started out this talk today talking about, what do people make? What do people make? And as I run the WordPress meetup here in Hutchinson, Kansas, right? So we have people that come to the WordPress meetup that are accidental freelancers, meaning, they just started to work on the internet. They did it like a hobby. And next thing you know, they're making websites for friends and family, a couple of nonprofit organizations. And now they feel like a freelancer. They feel like an agency almost, but they have zero goose egg for process. And so in private conversations, you'll find out that, oh yeah, I charge people like $30 an hour, but I'm not really sure how long it's going to take me. Each site is kind of a learning experience. Sometimes I just quote them $500 or $600, and then, sometimes it takes me this long and other times it takes me that long. That is all part of the growth pattern to get where you want to go, right? So we all have our steps of growth to go through. But if you can listen to people that have already been there, already done it, and are above the six-figure mark, then that gives you somewhere to shoot for. That gives you a goal to go for. So as I start having this talk today with you, with people out here, what I'm trying to convey is, if you're one of these people on Fiverr or Upwork and you're hitting, that $15 to $28 mark that we talked about earlier, how do we get you to the $45 or $50 mark? How do we get you to the $70 mark? How do we get you to the $80 or $90 mark? How do we get you to where you can charge $110, $120 an hour and oversee the project, but delegate the actual work to a partner, to someone else that you have on your team? And then how do we get you to where you're growing a team of 4 or 5 people? All of them are in that $15 to $28 range that you were just in, right? But you're charging $115, $120 an hour for the work that's getting done. That is what I'm trying to get people to see the vision for. I have an agency myself. I'm basically describing our model to you. I represent Mañana No Mas. I talk to the customers. I do the needs assessments. I come up with the proposals and the scopes of work, and I do the invoicing. I do the sales calls. I do the update calls. I do the Zoom trainings. I show people how to use the products that our agency creates. But we have a team of people in the background that I compensate to execute a lot of the tasks that happen. One of the things that we have with our agency is hosting. We'll offer hosting to some of our clients. And some people will say there's a lot of money in hosting. Like if I owned GoDaddy, I would say there's a lot of money in hosting. If I owned WP Engine, I would say there's a lot of money in hosting. They went public with some WP Engine numbers at the end of last year based on a squabble between WordPress and WP Engine. And, we're talking billions of dollars. We're not talking about 6 figures. We're talking billions of dollars in hosting. But when you get down to the agency level and you've got 10 clients, 15 clients, 50 clients that you're hosting, it's not a ton of money, okay? But it's something. It's one of the verticals in your business that creates revenue. And so one of the things we're going to talk about in our next Tech Talk is going to be about choosing a really good host for your agency. There's a difference in choosing a host for your website than choosing a host for your agency. And so I'm going to go through a couple of pathways I chose, and I'm going to let you know where we're at now. And I'm going to try and let you know why we're there, right? So that'll be happening in our next Tech Talk. And the next Tech Talk for us is going to be in February. All right. And again, I want to stress there is a huge difference between, let me check comments again, see if anyone's put any comments in. I'm really surprised nobody has any comments or feedback for me on this talk, because I thought that I came across with a couple of things that might cause people to ask questions. But in today's episode, and I'm not an affiliate with this company, by the way, the tool that I use for Mañana No Mas that I just gave you a tour of is called Sweet Dash. Sweet Dash, every now and then, has a lifetime deal that's available through AppSumo. Could be AppSumo. I don't regret it. I bought it years ago as a lifetime deal. So are there other products out there? Yes, there are other products out there. Some people would say, well, can't HubSpot do that? Well, you could force HubSpot to do some of those things. But in what I've seen, in what I've looked around for, and there's going to be other competitors, there's going to be Monday, Asana, there's going to be all these things that are going to be tools that people are going to say that you could use for this type of activity. I have found that Sweet Dash is that really sweet spot for agencies built like mine, because I can have the projects, I can have the proposals, the projects, the invoicing, the time tracking, the customer notifications, the messaging, and the scheduling and the calendar. I can have all of that in one platform that I think presents well, right? And it doesn't really go against any of the branding that I've had with Mañana No Mas, because even though I'm consistently changing the Mañana No Mas website, the logo stays the same, the base colors basically stay the same. And so there's a familiarity with it. You can white label Sweet Dash like I've shown you, right? So because it's white labeled, it doesn't say Sweet Dash all over it. It says Mañana No Mas all over it. And so my clients are just getting the freedom to use that platform in a way to communicate with us that gives them confidence and a sense of security that we've got their best interest at hand, that we're actually taking care of them. So I can't stress enough. I think one of the best decisions that we made as an agency, as we grew from, hey, I'll make you a brochure website for $500 to, hey, I can make you an e-learning platform with social tools for $48,000, right? Think about that transition. Think about that growth. I think one of the main reasons we're able to do that is because of the way that we have implemented that client portal system. I think that's really huge. Now, the other piece of tech that I use, and I use it pretty religiously, is this Remarkable 2 tablet. And this Remarkable 2 tablet here it's not mandatory, but I'm going to tell you how I use it. And I think if you're a business owner, you're going to see the value of at least the process, even if you don't like the tool. So typically what I do on a daily basis is I get up, have a little quiet time, maybe have some coffee with my wife. I read something that's inspirational. Typically I'll read a piece of scripture, get my head on straight, maybe do a little prayer. And then I'll break out this tablet. And this tablet is a planner and a journal. So on one page is the day. The next page is going to be where my inspiration came from, my priorities for the day, and any notes from the day. And then the next page is a blank journaling page. I have a blank journaling page for every day of the year in case I want to write any notes or any thoughts for the day. So even though I use Google Calendar in combination with my Outlook calendar and everything's all synced and everything seems technical in that way, and maybe that's something that we'll discuss on one of these tech talks, I review that calendar the day in that day. I write it down. When I write it down, it becomes more real for me, and I become less scattered in my mind about wondering what's next for the day. I've written it down. I kind of know what's going to happen for the day. I'm ready to go. And that's how I address that. And so I also, because feelings are feelings and facts are facts, business people have a tendency to react by feeling sometimes. So if I take a moment and I write things down and I focus on what my inspiration for the day was, and I focus on what the priorities for this day are, and I write down a couple of notes about how things executed, I kind of exercise those feeling demons out, right? And I can focus on the fact. I can focus on what actually has to happen for the day. And so I have found that this is it's called the Remarkable 2 tablet. And I used to write things down in notebooks, paper and pen. But at the end of a year, I had a stack of notebooks because every time I have a meeting, and maybe I'll show you this too. I go to My Files. If you look at the My Files page, I've got all of these folders here. And every time I have a meeting with somebody, I go into like Mañana no más. Oh, I clicked on one. Let me close it. You don't need to see all my details. Every time I have a meeting with a client, I log it in here and I take notes as I do the meeting. Everything I write in here is searchable. Everything that I look for is searchable. If I wrote it down in a notebook, paper and pen, that stack of notebooks is not searchable. So it would take me a long time to find things and to get reacclimated to a topic. But with the Remarkable 2, everything is searchable. So I take notes with every conversation I have in a meeting. I can go and say, hey, last time I talked to David Sterling, what did we talk about? And I can open that up. I can go right to the last day that we met. And I can say, okay, so we last met on November 27th, right? And then I can go through there and I can say, okay, what were the things that we discussed in that meeting? And I can refresh myself. And sometimes that's an irreplaceable tool. When a client will come to me and say, hey, I thought you were going to X, Y, and Z. I can open that up and go, well, here are the notes that I took from that meeting. In that meeting, we discussed this, and this. We discussed A, but we did not discuss B and C. Is that something you would like to add to the scope of work? And then go into an upsell conversation rather than having a conversation that's not based in fact. And so those are two pieces of tech today that I've been able to share with you. We're about 45 minutes into our talk today, so I think I'm going to start to wrap this up. Folks, I would have loved to have seen some comments and some interaction. Even if you just tell me where you're from, and what your interest is or how you got here, I think that is a totally cool thing to think about. But here's the deal. We are going to be doing these Thursdays at 10 o'clock Central for the foreseeable future. We have all of January scheduled. We're working on February's schedule now to figure out the subjects and the topics. I just want to bring some value to some folks. I work with a lot of people in the agency space that are hovering in that $20,000 to $35,000 range. And when they come to like the Hutchinson WordPress meetup and they tell me their stories about growing their freelance or their agency work, I know that they're not going to grow. I know that they're not going to grow because they don't have process and tech in place to sustain the growth. So I'm trying to inspire people through these live sessions to say, hey, if you had access to an agency doing better than six figures, what would you ask them? How would you get there? How would you get to that place? And with a sense of humility, right? This isn't like, hey, look at me. No, it's more like, I want to share this with you so that you have the ability to lay those foundations and grow in your own space. The need for websites is through the moon. So I'm not worried about people, taking our work away. But this is also applicable to other people in other industries. For instance, if I was a landscaper, I'm going to hit people in the fields now. I think about this little town I live in. It's not a little town. It's 42, 44,000 people in this town. But when I think about landscapers, plumbers, electricians, arborists, who else do I know of? Well, when I think of people in these spaces, they don't have modern appointment setting tools. They don't have modern payment gateway tools. So typical house cleaner. We have a family member that's a house cleaner. And I said, well, how do you get paid? Well, sometimes they leave a check. Other times I got to go back. What? Sometimes? No, there's no sometimes. Like, you're running a business. So if you're running a business, you should have a website. And that website should allow your customers to book your cleaning services on certain days or at certain times. And that website could also, when they book those sessions and times, could swipe their credit card for you so that you only go and visit and clean houses that you've been prepaid to clean. And if there's anything outside the original scope of work, you have an agreement to bill them additionally for agreed to work and labor. So those are the things that I'm really, really focused on. And if I can share that with you and get you kind of motivated in these spaces, regardless of the business you're growing, no matter where you are in your startup or your growth, I want to help you with that. Now, as a side note, what's a side reason why Mañana No Mas would do this? Well, if you're a startup, if you're new to the business space and you're like, I need to get my message online and I want to do more of what Kurt's talking about. I want to have appointment setting. I want to have a CRM tool. Maybe I want to have an educational product so I can train staff or train subcontractors to do some of the things that I do. Then we probably need to have a conversation. At Mañana No Mas, we have two siloed products that we basically offer to clients. One is a productized offer for startups that says, here's a templatized website with some key tools to get you launched and to get your message going in the right direction and help you get launched with your feet on the ground. Okay. And then we have, a full agency offer where we do discovery and we work with stakeholders and we do, full design mock-ups and workups and convert those designs into web instances and special tools and custom platforms. We have all that. So those are the two main folks that we're looking at. We're looking at startups and we're looking at enterprise clients that have already been through the startup phase and have scaled, and they want to do something a little more modern and maybe something a little more budget minded, right? If they, for instance, they might have an e-learning platform that costs them $300,000 a year. Well, we know that we can do that for a third of that or better, right? So if we could save you $200,000 this year by converting your e-learning platform, wouldn't you be happy to work with us? And that's what we're kind of looking at when we look at those different things. So, folks, that wraps up our talk for today. I've got to wrap this up because I've got to get rolling. I've got to get into the WP Tonic show. We'll be interviewing a rock star in the space today for sure. So, me and Jonathan will see you there if you've got the time to bounce over to the WP Tonic YouTube channel. Have yourself a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.